My name's Dave DeBow, founder of MoneyPartnerFormula.com, and this show is built for everyday real estate investors who are actively doing deals and looking to scale using other people's money. So if you're an active real estate investor and you want to get featured on this show to talk about your own real estate and capital raising experiences, then just go to daveinterviewsyou.com. Now let's get rolling with this episode, and remember to subscribe for daily interview content.
All right, guys, welcome to Property Profits Podcast. I'm your host, Bryce Kaminsky, filling in for Dave Dubow. And have you ever wondered how to purchase 100 plus properties in 90 days? Well, today, my guest, Ken Chung, he's going to let us in on a few secrets on how to build rapidly, how to build big. And he's also going to tell us a few stories about maybe the pitfalls that come along with that, and that you can never, if you never give up, never surrender, you can always turn it around, do it again, and helping people is the bottom line. And so today I got Ken Chung on the show. Welcome to the show. It was great to have you here.
Thanks a lot. Really appreciate you having me on board. It's been quite the ride, and I'm looking forward to our conversation.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking a little bit before the show, and remind me exactly the number you said. In 90 days, you purchased
120 houses in 90 days with none of my own money.
That must have been exciting for the lawyer involved in closing all those transactions.
Lawyers, mortgage brokers, realtors, they were all happy people.
So what was this in one city? Was this in multiple cities? Tell us a little more about the background of that.
Multiple cities. I first started buying houses in Kelowna, British Columbia, and I realized that, there's better cash flow in other cities in the country, Winnipeg, Saskatchewan, and the North Battleford. So I went everywhere, but most of my properties that I picked up, majority were in Winnipeg. I think at one point I picked up 78 in Winnipeg. I think I picked up another 40 in North Battleford and another dozen in Saskatoon. And yeah, I think I had a couple in Regina as well. So that was kind of crazy.
Well, Winnipeg, that's where I'm at. So what happened? What year was that in?
Goodness, that would have been 2004. Yeah, 2004. Basically what happened is my buddy called me up. He knew I bought a couple of houses in Kelowna, and he was trying to, he says, Ken, I went to this thing and I signed up for this other thing, and I spent a couple grand to go, and I think you should come down and go to it with me because I think you'll really get it. And I said, you did what and paid how much? And so I said, all right. And he's a very conservative cat. And I said, if he thought that much of this, I'll play hooky and I'll go down and visit and see what it's about. So through the whole weekend, which was really just a big eye opener for me, when they say that light bulb goes off and, up above your head, well, mine was going off ping, 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 ping all weekend. And I spent most of the weekend texting and calling back and forth with my lawyer, my accountant, my mortgage broker, and my realtors. And, I was saying, can you do this? And he goes, yeah, absolutely. I said, well, why didn't you ever tell me? He goes, well, you never asked. And I said, okay, so now I'm asking. So I went through the weekend and we signed up and we spent the big bucks and we bought the whole slew of courses and a mentor and all that kind of stuff. The earliest I could have got my mentor, this was back in September in 2003. And then the earliest we could get our mentorship set up was for just between Christmas and New Year's. So between Christmas and New Year's. Now, before that, I'd gone to a couple of training camps and realized, about condo conversions and wholesale and that kind of thing. And it wasn't until I sat down with my mentor for the week between Christmas and New Year's that it really lit a fire under me. And shortly after that, I went out and I started booking trips out to Winnipeg. And within the next 90 days, I bought 120 houses. And none of it was my own money. It was quite the trip. I partnered up with a couple of people, private money, and made them really good money and paid them really good interest for their money. And I paid, well, geez, I was paying on average sometimes 15 or 20% per annum for their money. And I was still making so much more money that I could afford to do that. it got to a point where I tried to give them their money back because I didn't need it anymore. I was making so much in cash flow that I could pay back all this money I borrowed to get it going. And they said, no, 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 I don't want it. I don't want it back. I'm enjoying the
I want
cash.
my, yeah, I want my cash.
Yeah, give me my
So,
interest. I'm good. And so they said, go find something else to do with it. So that's
mhm.
what I did.
Okay. So then, because 2004, 2005, probably something like a 20 or 40 or $50,000 house, something like that
Oh
in
goodness, in
Winnipeg.
Winnipeg, yeah. I was my first house that we bought out there. Geez, it was 17.5. I put it on my credit card.
Hmm.
Um, of course, I built a power team. I worked with realtors and mortgage brokers and property managers. And when I was doing that, it was really important for them to understand who I was, what I was about, what I was trying to achieve. And at the same time, I was kind of feeling them out for who they were. So I went out in the first week and I put 140 offers out in the first weekend I was out there. And we bought this one house for 17.5. We did some renovations to it, turned it into 2 suites, and then reappraised the house. It was at 32,000. We took out the 25%, equity, or sorry, we refinanced it to 75%, so loan to value. So we had 25% equity left in it. And we actually ended up putting like $1,500 back in our pocket, and I was cash flowing $900 a month.
There
So
you
that
go.
was effectively no money in that deal of mine because it was all equity that we built. And then we pulled the money back out, and I'm still cash flowing $900 a month after paying my property manager and expenses and such. So it was amazing. So I repeated that. There was a lot of duplexes I bought for 40 or 50,000, and I even bought a
Hmm.
triplex for 75, I think it was, in West End Wolseley, which is a really cool character house. It was really nice. So, I had my fair share in the hood as well. Um,
Hmm.
but I had a good mix to my portfolio, and being able to do all that was just by building a power team and working with several realtors, a few different property managers. And then I worked in different cities too. Like I worked in North Battleford. I grabbed part of that 120 was in North Battleford, and we picked it up. Originally they were asking 1.2 million, and at the end of the day, I ended up paying them 600,000, put 735,000 into repairing it, and we got an unsolicited offer at $2 million, and about a year, just over a year later, and walked away from it. So we did really well. It was, and then we just kept buying more.
Yeah. So that went on for a while. So now we still have 20 years so let's go 10 more years. Now it's like 2015. What are you up to?
Oh, hang on. Let's go back one step because you did ask me a
Okay.
question I didn't answer. I apologize. You asked me how I managed to buy those houses,
Yeah.
right? And really a big part of it. Remember, I told you all those light bulbs were going off, and I said, "Can I do this? Can I do that? Can I do
Hmm.
this?" Well, one of the things I learned was that when you buy a house in a corporation, right, you're definitely having to put the 25% down. However,
Yeah.
you personally guarantee it, but the mortgage is not in your name.
Hmm.
So I ended up creating multiple companies. I think at one point I had about 28 companies at my peak there. And I purchased all these houses in companies. Some of them I put 5 or 10 into each company, right?
Hmm.
And I personally guaranteed every mortgage, but because none of them were my name, it didn't hurt my debt service ratio at all. And all I was doing was putting them in companies. I got a call from CIBC because I think I had 79 of those mortgages with First Line, and they called me up and said, "Hey, we need to have a meeting." And I'm like, okay. And they took me to the second floor of what I call the Imperial Palace here in Kelowna, and which I never get invited up there until now.
Hmm.
And then they wanted to know how I did what I did. And they said, okay, all right, I understand. It was a lot real fast, so let's kind of slow it down a little bit here. And so I kind of pivoted gears and started wholesaling, doing some other things. So that's how I managed to buy them in 90 days.
Nice.
Hmm.
So moved into different strategies, and then let's push the sticks now again. Let's talk about 2015 then. Let's go 10 more years. Now what's going on?
Well, by 2015, I'd lost everything.
Okay.
Yeah. So the crash of '08. Didn't really take me down, although it was kind of the final nail in the coffin, if you will, for me to lose everything. It was a wild ride. I put a lot of trust in the people I worked with. I had a property manager that was stealing 5-10 grand a month for me, so I
Mm.
went to another one who was a bigger setup, an office, teams, blah blah blah. They were what do they call that? Bonded,
Mm-hmm.
and little did I know, and I found out later, the bonding doesn't really mean anything, except for they're slightly insured, which didn't really help in our case, because they proceeded to embezzle $500,000 from me and left me with $180,000 hydro debt to Manitoba Hydro. So the
Mm.
Manitoba Hydro was going to cut off power to 100 and some odd of my tenants, and I didn't think that was cool. You know, I could have fought it. I could have done a bunch of things, but at the end of the day, these families would have been homeless, right? And buildings would have become vacant and derelict buildings, and that just isn't good for anybody. So I made a deal with Hydro, liquidate my portfolio, pay them from the proceeds until they were covered, and I did exactly that. And I fire saled everything out just so I had a timeline I had to work with them on getting it taken care of. And at the end of the day, I cleared out with a few million, and I got into a couple of land development projects in 2007, late 2007 for one, and then of course the crash of '08 hit, and that just devastated me. I went from being worth 20 million to -8, and that was a long haul going through that
Mm.
process. So by 2015, I was still licking some wounds at that point, because I had to recover. I had to go bankrupt and start all over.
Mm.
It wasn't fun, and it took a long time for me to come out of a funk for that. But I'll tell you that my saving grace would be my wife and my kids. They were very supportive. At the end of the day, I still have my wife, my kids, a roof over my head. The rest really didn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
And one day, my loving wife looked at me and she said, "What the hell's wrong with you? You have all this knowledge in your head. They couldn't take that away from you. So what are you waiting for?"
Yeah, Donald
And
Trump it and go for around 75 or whatever he's on
exactly.
now.
Yeah, I'm hoping I'm not going to need to sell a bunch of gold shoes to catch up, but yeah, and this time around, I know what I did well and what was really successful for me at that time, and I know what I did wrong. And part of it, I was taught how to protect myself from just such experiences happening.
Mm-hmm.
And because I went with some local legal advice and things that I was taught to do for asset protection and strategies, what he didn't realize, the lawyer that I had working with me, was set up a family trust and those kinds of things is what I was supposed to do. And I did them later because he told me I didn't need to do them right now.
Mm.
But he didn't see me buying 120 houses in 90 days. He didn't
Yeah.
see me building a $20 million real estate portfolio, right? And I didn't see it happening either, to be honest. It just happened. And it happened so fast that it was a wild ride. It's like being on a roller coaster at some serious speed and trying to keep up, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and doing your best to keep everything down inside. So it was a great experience. I don't regret any part of it. But I came out much stronger for it and much wiser. This time around, now that I'm kind of on a rebuild path, and I've found where I'm going with it. I'm going to do a bunch of development sets right now with the new rules in BC and being able to take all single family residences to fourplexes or triplexes.
Mm-hmm.
I've got some of those on the way, as well as since I put it out there in social media world, I guess I started posting things about real estate again. People found out that I'm back and I'm ready to go. And I have a marina I'm dealing with. I have land development projects that are on my lap to deal with. And all these things are all coming out of the woodworks, which are great. And it's really exciting time to build it up again.
Mm-hmm. I think that the tide feels like it might be turning. They keep telling us that the interest rates are turning, but I'll wait to see when that actually occurs, because it's really tightened in the last since one of the investors, even down in the States, because the United States and Canada, we kind of do our adjustments to the mortgage interest rate around the same time. Canada kind of follows suit with what the United States is doing, and they pretty much nailed it. They said June 2022 things just tightened up, and it's
Yes.
been an upward tightening since, I guess, like almost like June will be 2 years. So,
Yeah.
um, how do you? Because it doesn't sound like single families on the plate. What's the future hold?
Well, single family is on the plate, and I think that's actually where a lot of people miss the boat on it. With the new rules of being able to put, triplexes and fourplexes on the lot, you're able to sell, one lot to four people effectively by doing a small development. And they're quick and they're easy, and we're able to get that back into the market so we can create more housing, which is what we so desperately need in Canada anyway.
Mm-hmm.
They're smaller, you're not having the whole big family yard and all that kind of thing anymore. However, what a lot of people miss is how do you differentiate yourself when you're doing that? For example, we're taking taking one right now and we're putting a legal secondary suite in the bottom of each one so that they have a mortgage helper when they go to the bank and say, hey, I've now got this property and I have income potential of X. So now that I can go ahead and rent the bottom or the top out and purchase the property, that's going to give that property a step up as opposed to the ones that don't have the suites available to it.
Mm-hmm.
That makes a big difference. I think when you're in this game of real estate that we so love, it it really comes down to the math, and I think most people forget about that. Even with the interest rates being as high as they are at times, I mean, there are some deals that I'll pay 15% on, no problem, because
Mm-hmm.
the math works, right? And it's funny, they came out with this house flipping tax on last week in BC. It's not new to Canada, it's new to BC. It's been out in Ontario for some time.
Mm-hmm.
And the reality is for those of us that have the ability, the skill set to buy one, renovate it, and put it back on the market, these typically are derelict buildings or really run down, and where so many people who need a home don't have the skill set or the finances to be able to go in there and renovate it. So
Yeah.
by us being able to do that and putting it, a good house, instead of taking that house and going to the dump with it, we're putting it back into the market in refreshed state.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, we're making money doing so. I mean, it doesn't matter to me because I do it in a business fashion anyway, run it through a corporation, and I'm not having to worry about that tax because I'm paying income tax on it anyway,
Yeah.
right?
People get
But
really excited about these types of legislations that come out. Um, as excited as they get, they should spend half as much of their energy reading the intricacies of the CBC News article or the CTV, 2 paragraph article that's like designed to be clickbait. Like go to gov.gc.ca, read the thing, and decide if it actually affects you as a professional. Because a lot of times you're right. If you're doing it in a corp or you have a particular structure, it's really not there to tax that person. It's there to tax the kind of hobbyists that are getting
yeah,
away with the tax in a different way. So um, lots of stuff going on. I'm definitely excited about the multi-family on single lots that they're rolling out. This kind of reminds me of someone likened it to the strawberry box houses where they built all those like prefab houses after the war and put them on the train
yes,
lines and bolted them together. We got tons of them here in Winnipeg. And so the whole concept is like, how do we raise the total number of housing rapidly? Well, make every single plot a fourplex availability. And people aren't really looking at them as multifamily, but you're kind of building that's like a small apartment block. They're essentially building
exactly,
tons of tiny apartment blocks.
yeah,
And they don't really have parking, but at the end of the day, most of those people who are renting, maybe they're walking anyway. And one of the rules we have in Winnipeg is it has to be within, I think it's 100 meters of transit. So they're
right.
letting the parking variance go in lieu of proximity to rapid transit or transit itself. So what are they doing for I guess you're doing that out in Kelowna or out in BC?
Yeah, in Kelowna, uh if you are within oh Jesus, it's a short walk to a major bus line. You have to have a bus that goes by every 15 minutes 24 hours a day.
Mm,
That doesn't really exist in most of Kelowna.
most of
Um,
Canada.
yeah. So, it isn't going to, that's the rule in order to avoid having to have parking regulations on you.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you have to have one parking spot or one garage bay for each unit. And
Yeah,
that's fine, but
we're at 1.4 or something. They want
yeah.
like a berth, and that's almost impossible on these Winnipeg lots.
Yeah, totally. And here's the thing. This whole idea of creating all this extra housing, it's not going to make it any more attainable. Doing the math on these properties, especially like you look at Kelowna, you'll pay $1 million for a tear down. Okay.
Hmm.
And then so once you factor in, you do all the math, and by the time you get it done, ready to go and sold, there's about 300,000 out of each door that you're selling that is going to the multiple levels of government in one way or another in taxes or fees.
Hmm.
That's not even factoring the GST, okay? That's just factoring in the fees and things that are attached to doing that project.
Yeah.
And that's not chump change. You're talking about
I
1.2
was
million in
hoping
fees.
I was hoping that they would hold the fees. That's when we sit around and we talk about these things, the only real way to really do the thing is to cut the tape. And you got to cut the fees. It's already so hard to build. It's already so expensive to construct the things. The materials
Yep.
are up, labor's up, fees are up. Like,
Well,
where's the
I'll tell
profit?
you,
Where's the profit for me and you? Like where's the because investors don't get out of bed to just make the community nicer. There's an incentive
it's a
to easily
business.
profit.
That's right. And I'm starting to try and be creative on my own end so that I can be trying to contribute to the solution, not the problem.
Hmm.
So there's a couple of projects we're in the middle of working the math on right now, and it looks like if I can, I'm going to follow what the Bennett's and Stewart families did in Kelowna. Or they did a couple of developments, and some were commercial and some were residential, and creating a 99-year land lease, sort of what the natives do, exactly what they do actually. And you have that with a 99-year land lease with the renewable options and so on. And that way the tenants aren't paying for the land, so that was reducing the cost. And in a condo, you might be able to reduce it $100,000 a door for somebody to be able to buy it. And that's huge. If you can
Hmm.
put something in place for them, and it makes every bit of difference. So we're not making necessarily affordable, you're making it attainable.
Mm.
And if you can go and take a townhouse, like even a townhouse, if you did
That's the
here, it's
new
still $1 million.
that should be the new slogan instead of Canadian affordable housing, Canadian attainable housing program.
That's
Because
right.
that's really what it
Well,
is. It's like Kelowna is not for Winnipeggers, let's say. People who make 44K a year on average,
yeah.
they're not they're probably not coming to Kelowna. But there's a particular demographic of like remote workers, and I don't know how the average person kind of lives in these BC places, because is the wage really that much higher in Kelowna when
Well,
someone
we're about to
is a
get a new
professional?
raise. It's about to become 1740, I believe, in June 1st, which is their minimum wage. I'm not sure what's minimum wage out in Winnipeg right now.
15 something. It
Okay,
might be
so a few bucks
16.
behind.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
a few dollars behind, but when I look at it, it's like, what's the rent? Rent here is
Oh
maybe,
yeah.
let's say, 1,500 for 2 or 3 beds. There, it's
Oh,
got
that'd
to
be
be,
3 grand.
yeah.
Yeah.
So who
So
has the money, right?
well, here's the thing. One of the reasons I started to jump back into this as I am now is watching what's been happening over the last 5, 7 years.
Hmm.
It's going through the roof. But I look at it as I've got two boys that are adulting now, 17 and 22, who I like. How are they going to afford anything? If I don't get something going that's going to be possible for them to participate or live in, they're going to live at home forever.
There's the incentive to get the boomers investing. Want to get your kid out of your house? Buy a duplex and house hack them out the door.
I love my kids, and it's funny. My son's sitting there going telling his cousin they were over for Chinese New Year, and he's sitting there. Well, this is a great gig. Why would I ever leave? He goes,
Mm-hmm.
I'm just gonna stay. I'll wait till mom and dad pass on, or they move into I'll build them a carriage house or something. They can go out there, but I don't ever have to leave. Why would I bother? He says, I can't afford anything out in the street anyway.
Yeah, it's usually the girlfriend or the wife to be that gets them out of the basement. That's the human nature pushing it along. So what with all these different plans, you've got to be looking down the barrel of the capital machine. And with your track record, it's likely going to be relatively easy to drum up the capital. I want to get into capital in just a second, but there's a question that I normally ask everyone on the show, which is the unfair advantage. So what comes easy to you that other people find difficult to do?
Straight up, it's my creativity, my thought process. I look at things outside of the box in many different ways, and I almost instantly see different ways of making the same thing happen.
Mm,
And that's really kind of, people look at it and go, well, geez, that property there, it doesn't, the cap rate doesn't work. It doesn't make any sense. I said, yeah, but if you think about it like this, and you go, oh, I never even thought of that. Boom.
mhm,
And that solves the problem. That's one of the things that makes a difference for me. And I will tell you that a big part of that comes from when I first got into real estate. I built my network. I have a massive network all over the world, most of them in North America and a huge portion of them in Canada. There isn't anybody I can't pick up the phone and get the answer from if I'm stuck on something.
mm,
And if I needed to, put a brain trust together to try and figure the things out, I can get on a Zoom call now with technology, and I call my friends up, say, hey guys, I just need a little brainstorming session. Can you guys jump on for, a half hour and kind of help me work something through a challenge? And that is the beautiful thing about having a great network of people that you work with, that you trust and you treat right. If you don't
mhm.
abuse them, they're always there for you because they love real estate and they're happy to help.
Okay, so let's talk about capital. Now, how many years has it been since you drummed up the capital list? Or have you
Oh
been
goodness, it's been years. I mean, I think last time I drummed up capital was 2000 and maybe five or no, it was 2007 was the last time I drummed up capital.
Mhm,
And that honestly, that's one of the biggest roadblocks that I personally have going back into the game, right? Because of my history and because I've been out of the loop for so long,
mhm,
things have changed so much, and a lot of people were, when the downturn hit us in BC, it didn't really hit the Lower Mainland, but here in Kelowna, we hit 20, maybe 25% impact on our properties falling in price and value,
mhm,
and so that had a huge impact to a lot of people. I still have the ability to show people how they can really offset their mortgage and live kind of mortgage free depending on where they're at with what they're doing,
mhm,
and just by restructuring what they have. And that's sort of one of my advantages, to be able to look and find creative solutions to awaken their financial potential. And that's really one of the key factors I can bring to the table with a group of people. And so coming back into the game, I don't have that network of people to drum up private money from, so I'm doing it in a different way, which is really out of the box for me and out of my comfort zone, because I'm not a social media guy at all. I don't know how to take advantage of that. So I've recently become a part of another group and a syndicate of people who have that skill set, who are sharing their knowledge and helping me create that funnel, if you will, to build that funnel and turn it into a machine to create leads for me, to work with people, make sure that they're accredited investors and things like that, so that we're doing it right. And all the cross the I's and dot the T's kind of deal, right? And that is really kind of the new path for me. And in that process, um, be putting that word out and doing some of the few little things that I've done already, it has really elevated the amount of things for me to look at. It's been a long time since I've spent most of my nights up 2, 3, 4 in the morning and just sitting on the computer, looking at real estate deals and trying to assess what works, what doesn't. Because as a real estate investor, most of them will tell you that there's about 90% of them out there that just don't work. You
mhm,
know, people want to price it for whatever they want, but at the end of the day, the math has to work.
mhm. So what sort of things are you doing to, drum up that business with the social media team?
Well, so the social media team really is making it known that I'm back in investing in real estate, making known that uh, little tidbits of what I know and sharing that online, gaining interest from people. I haven't quite finished the funnel yet for it to go live. I'm working on that right now. I also have a few guys that, because they saw those posts a few weeks ago, have reached out to me and asked me to work with them as a group and how we can work together and collaborate on things. And I said, great. And so they have people they know that maybe have access to equity or cash and are interested in talking about how they can participate in real estate with us. And so that's one of my things. I'm going to sit down with them and see where they're at and put it together. So I'm working with a network that have reached out to me, and also trying to build that exposure online so that more people do. The funnel that I'm going to be doing is through the investor syndicate and growth syndicate, and it's going to basically provide a little bit of information and then give people the opportunity, if they're interested, to click through and find out more. And then I have a vetting team that will actually go through to vet them and make sure that they're accredited investors and they fit in a certain category, so that I am able to actually work with them, because I don't need to go down that path and cross the lines with securities and such. You want to make sure you're doing everything properly.
So on that note, if people want to connect with you, they want to find out more, what should they do? How do they find you?
Well, they can simply go to kenchung.ca. I think my first page is actually messed up right now, but it's being fixed. But kenchung.ca, or find, Ken Chung on Facebook. Type in Ken Chung Kelowna and you'll find me. And or they can call me direct. My number is 250-469-3002. I answer the phone all the time, unless I've gone to sleep and I shut it off. But 250-469-3002. And you'll find me. Most people find it easy to find me.
Awesome. Well, Ken, I really appreciate you stopping by and giving people a little bit of perspective. You never know when you're maybe taking a step too fast, or maybe not fast enough. So it's great to hear the story of your journey so far, and I wish you the best with this second period of real estate. Your wife's right. I get the same speech too, when it's like, you have all this information, you shouldn't be sitting on the bench. Yes, dear. Let's go do some real estate. Yes, dear. I'll go buy some houses.
Well, our wives are brilliant, aren't they?
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, until next time, we'll catch you on the next episode.
Thanks, Bryce.
Hey there, I really hope you enjoyed that episode. And as always, if you want to listen to more daily interview content, make sure you subscribe. And if you're an active real estate investor and you're doing deals and you'd like to get featured on this show, then just head over to daveinterviewyou.com. Now at moneypartnerformula.com, we help real estate investors to create a process for predictably getting capital so they can do more deals without relying on hard money lenders or the banks. We do this by building them a private capital marketing system. Now, if you want help turning yourself into a big money capital attraction machine, then book a call with our team to see how we can help. Just visit moneypartnerformula.com to find out more. All right, take care, and we'll see you on the next interview.